Hello everyone, Tina here. I hope you're having a wonderful day. Happy New Year again to you all. Today we're making a card. We're using the same items that we used yesterday. If you missed that video, I'll link it at the end. But we're using Spellbinders Club kits. We have the large die of the month club kit. It's called Hummingbird Delights. We have the Cloud 9 embossing folder of the month club kit for January. And we have the clear stamp and die of the month club kit. Called Best Year Sentiments. We're going to make our card in 5 easy steps, and we're just going to jump right in and get started. So I'm going to die cut this out with some of my Peridot cardstock. And then there's some of the daisy elements. There's actually a layering piece to this that I'm going to die cut out with some white cardstock. That's going to be part of my focal image. Now for the flower centers, these are the flower centers. I'm going to use some of my gold mirror cardstock. And then as far as the hummingbird goes, I already created my hummingbirds. Let me show you what they look like. I used the same cardstock that we used yesterday. I just filled in my panel a little bit more and created 2 extra hummingbirds. So again, if you want to know how I created these little guys, I'll link that video at the end for you guys to check out. I thought this would just save me a little bit of time. So we're going to die cut these elements out, and I will be right back. Let's zoom in a little bit more. Okay, and so we have our daisies, and then we have our flower centers, and then we have the base and the leaves of our daisies. What I'm going to do is bring in some ink. This is my Simon Says Stamp Artichoke ink. And I'm just going to add a little shading at the bottom here. That's all I'm doing to the flower base. Okay, and as far as layering goes, I'm bringing in some small foam squares. And then we can take the layering elements, and I'm keeping them white. So all we do is just layer this right on top. And look how easy that is. We have some dimension to those flowers. We'll do the same thing to this set. I love that they're two different sets. Okay, now we have these 2 extra pieces that add even more dimension. So we're going to add a foam square to these pieces. Almost like we're doing decoupage, we're going to add another layer. If you don't want all this dimension, you could skip this step, or you can use a lower profile foam tape. That would work too. But I just love the dimension. Okay, so I layered them on this flower and this flower. So these have an extra layer to them. Okay, but we still need 2 more. Okay, let's layer this one now. And this one. And there we go. It actually really does give it a little bit of depth. Now let's add a little glue to the centers of our flower. Okay, you just kind of got to match them up here. I noticed on the packaging too that you could frame any panel. How gorgeous is this? So creating 2 of these, you can create a panel. I just love that. I love versatility. But that is my focal image along with my hummingbirds. Now we're going to move along to step number 2, which means we need to create our home panel. For my home panel, I have an A2 panel that I'm going to trim a 1/4 inch off. So it's going to measure 4 inches by 5 1/4. Okay, and then I'm going to do a little bit of shading behind here. I thought we'd add a little bit of a blue highlight. So I'm bringing in my seafoam ink, and I'm going to pick up a little bit of ink here, and then I'm going to add some color. And there we go. You'll notice I skipped the bottom. I did that because I'm really focusing on what's going to go behind our window here. Okay, I kind of like that little gradient look. So this will be my home panel. I'm going to put that with my hummingbirds. And now we're going to move along to step number 3 and create our greeting. We're using our clear stamp and die of the month club kit. And we're going to stamp and heat emboss hello. Let's go ahead and place this here. I'm going to stamp my hello with my VersaFine Clair. It's a pigment ink, so I can actually heat emboss with it. We'll stamp this on some white cardstock, and I'm going to add gold embossing powder here. Kind of keeping with the gold theme. We'll tap this. I'm going to use my heat gun and we'll melt this. Let's take the coordinating die and we will cut this out. I did pop up my hello using some pop-up foam, so we have a little dimension to it, but that's all there is to my greeting. We'll put this to the side, and now we're going to work on step number 4, which means we need to create our background. For my background, I'm taking an A2 panel of Spellbinders chiffon cardstock, okay? And I'm not going to use the photo frame portion. What I'm going to do is just use the inside piece, and I'm going to create a photo frame without the postage edge. So now we have just a plain photo frame. Love that. If you want to use the postage edge with it on today's card, you could, but I'm just going for something different. Since we used the postage edge yesterday, I just wanted a different look. Okay, and we're not going to use the inside piece. What we're going to do is add our flowers behind here. Okay, I'm going to flip this over, and I'm going to add foam tape behind here. I also put a couple of small foam squares behind my flowers just so everything is nice and flush. I'm going to take this and we're going to attach this to the background here, and then I'll flip this over and we're going to attach this to the front of our card base. Give it a press. These corners kind of popped up a little bit because the foam tape. You may have to remove the foam tape off of them. But I love the way that looks. Before we add our greeting and our hello, I'm going to move along to step number 5, which means it's time to embellish. Yesterday I mentioned using the Vivant circle cord. I'm going to use that again today as my embellishment. So I'm just going to take a little bit here. I'm going to add a lip. What I'm going to do is I'm going to trim down some thin strips, and I'm going to add this to the frame. And then that's all I'm doing as far as embellishing. I think that says enough right there. What we're going to do next is add our hummingbirds and our greeting. And I'm also going to bring in my Spellbinders Color Essential Gems. These are denim. If you have the onyx, the black, you could use those. But I'm just going to add one of the smallest ones right over my hummingbird's eyes. When I added the, oops, I'm upside down. When I added my, with my solar spray, it covered the gray of the eyes. So this is just going to make them stand out a little bit better. Okay, and that's all there is to my card today. I'm not going to add any more embellishments. I do recommend, I don't know if you guys can tell here, but it's kind of bowing a little bit on the sides. And that's because when I popped up my daisies with foam tape, I didn't remove the foam tape on the left and the right. Remove the foam tape on the left and the right and just add the foam tape to these flowers. That way your frame will lay flat. But you can see it bows a little bit. Okay, that will prevent that from happening. But such a pretty card, isn't that so pretty? I just love the kits this month. This is my project using some Spellbinders Club kits for our January 2026. I hope this gives you a little bit of inspiration. And again, if you missed the video where I made the hummingbirds yesterday, I'll link it at the end. Have a wonderful day. Happy second day of January. We'll see you again real soon. Bye-bye. Thanks so much for sticking with me to the end. I have 2 more videos that you guys might be interested here. If you guys are new and like the content that you see, click that subscribe button and also the notification bell. That way for future videos, be notified. Also, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. It sure does help the channel. Have a wonderful day. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.